It was another day in the big city, a day to solve more crimes. You see, I'm a cop. My name is Joe Friday. I love watching the old reruns of Dragnet. In an hour, Jack Webb and Harry Morgan could solve a crime. I wish it was that easy today. I'm a cop too, only I'm not on television. I've been on the force for 14 years and love my job. The only thing I love more in life than my job is my wife, Lydia, and my 2 daughters. There is nothing in this world I wouldn't do for them. I ran into a problem last Monday and am trying to deal with it. When I got home, Lydia had my favorite dinner on the table. It was something she hasn't done for months. She then told me that she wanted to know if it was all right with me if she went out with her friends on Friday night. I usually wouldn't have a problem with that, except she didn't look at me when she asked. You see, I have kind of a sixth sense about me. I can look at someone's face and know if they are telling me the truth or not. It really helped me in my career. I may not have always known the truth, but I did know if I was lied to. I have to laugh when I watch Judge Judy on TV when she tells the people, "Look at me. Don't look at the ceiling. Don't look at the floor. Look me right in the eyes when you talk." She points her finger at the people and then back at her eyes. I believe we both have that same gift. Back to Lydia. She looked at me when she asked to go out, but when I asked her who all was going, she looked away and mentioned a few of her girlfriends' names. When I asked her if there was anyone else, she turned away and said she didn't know. I knew she wasn't telling me the whole truth. I wasn't sure what to say next. To the best of my knowledge, we never lied to each other. We had one of those marriages that everyone looked up to. "Where are you all going?" I asked. This time she looked me in the face. "We're thinking about going to Columbus to a couple of places. Barb's making the arrangements. We'll probably spend the night in Columbus. We don't want to be driving drunk or even slightly intoxicated. I'd hate to have to call you to bail me out of jail." She tried to smile but was still hiding something. I just didn't know what. I'm almost positive she has always been faithful to me, but something wasn't right. I didn't want to come out and accuse her of anything. I had nothing to go on except her looking away when answering me. I needed time to think. My girls came in and gave me a hug, and of course I hugged them back. They always put a smile on my face. We all sat down and ate dinner. Lydia didn't look at me through most of dinner. I told her to go ahead and go if she wanted to. I would stay home with the girls. We'd find something to do. It had been a while since I did much with them. How and when we met? I met Lydia 12 years ago. My partner and I were on routine patrol, and we decided to set up a radar gun in an area where we received reports of speeders. Jan, my partner, yes, she was a female partner and a good one. I would trust her to watch my back any day, and I set up alongside the street. The traffic was rather light, and most vehicles were within 5 mph of the posted limit. One car I clocked at 8 miles over the limit and waved it over. When I went up to the car, I saw the cutest gal behind the wheel. It was Lydia. She gave me a come-hither smile and asked why I pulled her over. "You were exceeding the speed limit. May I see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance, please?" I was trying to act tough, but I have to say she caught my eye. "Where were you headed so fast?" I asked. "I'm a senior at the university. I was on my way there to take a couple of finals." "I'm sorry, officer, but I thought I was doing the speed limit. Your radar gun must be off." It was the wrong thing to say to me. I went back to the cruiser and started writing out a ticket. We have our radar equipment checked every day. If she would have just said "I'm sorry" or something nice like that, I would have probably let her by with a warning. Jean looked over at me. "Jerry, you're not giving that young girl a ticket, are you? I can't believe you just didn't give her a warning. I want to see her again. I have her address here, and maybe I'll stop by someday when I'm in the neighborhood," I replied. "Are you nuts?" laughed Jean. "You really think she'll go out with you after giving her a ticket?" "You're one mixed-up officer," said Jean. "Jean, I stopped her on a traffic violation. I can't let her go and then ask her out. It just wouldn't be right." I got out of the cruiser and went back to Lydia's car. "Sorry, miss, but you will have to slow down in residential areas," I said as I handed her the ticket and her papers. "What? No warning? You were just giving me a ticket?" She looked at me. "You were speeding, miss. You have a court date if you want to fight it," I replied. "See you in court, officer," was the last thing she said to me. A week later, when I went to court, she was there. Not the young schoolgirl with a ponytail, but she was dressed like a woman ready to go out. She looked stunning in her low-cut dress. She didn't look slutty at all, but she definitely looked sexy. I guess she was going to try to entice the judge. Lydia looked over at me, and I smiled back at her. I could see she was ready to do her "I'm sorry, the officer must have made a mistake" routine until she saw the judge. It was Judge Hazel Hawkins. When Lydia looked back over at me, I had a big shit-eating grin on my face. I could see it made her mad, but I also saw something more. Something clicked between us. I gave my statements and a report of the morning's radar check. Everything was in order. Judge Hawkins then asked Lydia her side of the incident. Lydia knew she had nothing to back up any allegations and mumbled a few words. The judge told her she was in the wrong and found her guilty of speeding. Judge Hawkins looked over at me. I knew she was wondering why I gave this young woman a ticket. She just shook her head at me. I headed out into the lobby to wait on Lydia. When she came out, she came right up to me and said, "I hope you're happy that you got your man. In this case, a woman." I smiled at her and came out with it. "Will you go out with me?" "What? You give me a ticket and ruin my weekend, and you think I'll go out with you?" she asked. She was looking at me, and I knew she was interested. "How did I ruin your weekend?" "It's not even here yet," I asked. "I was going to go out with my classmates and celebrate passing my finals, but now I have to pay the stupid fine you caused," she said. "First off, you were speeding, and second, I want to take you out, and this weekend would be great. I'll take you wherever you want to go, and it won't cost you anything." I knew I was winning her over. "What about my friends? What am I supposed to tell them?" she asked. "Try the truth. Tell them you had to pay a speeding fine and won't have the money to go out with them. Tell them the cop felt some remorse and offered to take you out for dinner and dancing and wants your hand in marriage." I laughed. Lydia laughed too. "I'll take you up on the dinner and dancing, but the marriage will have to wait. Let's see how dinner goes first." "Okay with me, but you're going to love me. I can see it in your face. I'll pick you up Saturday at 7. Is that agreeable with you? Can you wear that same outfit you have on also?" "7's fine, and I'll wear this dress if you promise not to wear your uniform. I don't want anyone to think I'm getting arrested. Need my address?" "Nope, already have it. I've been driving by for a week hoping to see you." "So it's you who has been driving by my house. My mom said that the police have been protecting our area more than usual. Isn't that stalking?" She smiled. "If anyone else kept an eye on you, it would be stalking, but I'm here to protect and serve. I was protecting your neighborhood from unwanted crime. I was protecting you and your family. My mom will be glad to know that. I'll tell her tonight so she can sleep much better knowing you are there," she smiled. Our date was fantastic. Even though she was maybe 5 feet 3 inches, about 115 pounds, and I was 6 feet 3 inches, at least 220 pounds. We were like two peas in a pod. It was damn near love at first sight, or at least first date for me. From that night on, we became the best of friends. It was around 2 years later when we got married. 2 years after that was when Kira was born, and a year and a half later we had Brittany. Her mom and dad loved me and I loved them. My parents felt the same way about Lydia. We really were one big happy family. After graduating from college, Lydia became a school teacher. After the kids were born, her mom would watch the kids for us during the day. We very rarely argued, and we would always talk over our problems. I would tell her about what cases I might be working on, and she told me about the kids in her class. She asked me if I would do a safety talk for her class. Some of the kids were acting up, and she figured that me talking to them might help straighten them out. She was right. Now, at the beginning of every semester, I talk about crime and punishment to her class. Lydia told me that when she tells her classes I am her husband, they're a lot better behaved. We have two groups of good friends. She has the faculty and other school administrators that we go out and associate with. On the other side are my fellow officers and their families. We lead pretty busy lives, but always make time for each other. I trust her, and she trusts me. Our marriage has been built on that mutual trust. I should mention that there are people out there who hate to see happy marriages. For some reason, they will always try to break them up. Lydia and I have talked about it many times. We watch out for those situations. I have never cheated on her, even though there have been many opportunities. I guess a lot of women want to make it with a cop. If a woman gets overly friendly with me at a party, I try to put a stop to it by being nice but forceful. If that doesn't work, I look for Lydia and hang out with her. When that happens, she will always give me a kiss and a little smile. There is no way I would ever want to lose her for a quick, meaningless sex. In our 10 years of marriage, I have been hit on a goodly number of times. So it stands to reason that a woman as good-looking as Lydia has been hit on even more. I guess that most women figure they can handle it. A couple of times she has come to me, and I would take care of the situation. I'll tell you about one of those times. We were at a party, and one of my friend's brother was bothering Lydia. She came up to me and said that Bill was getting a little too fresh. I asked her if he tried anything, and she said no, but he kept pushing the situation. I walked up to Bill, and he told me what a beautiful wife I had. I told him straight out, "Thank you. She's my life. If any man ever tried to put the make on her, I would have no problem killing him." There's a lot of ways to get the job done. After saying that to Bill, I waltzed back over to Lydia and put my arms around her and kissed her. I asked her later if she had any more problems with Bill, and she told me that he treated her like she had the plague. She asked me what I had said to him, and I told her that I had told Bill that I loved her and that I would do whatever it takes to keep her. She told me it worked. I had to talk to a few guys during our marriage. The rest of the cases I figured Lydia was able to handle. I truly believe that Lydia has always been honest with me. There were a few times when we stopped going out with certain couples. If either of us felt out of place, then we agreed the best thing to do was to get ourselves out of bad situations. Believe me when I tell you there are a lot of drugs and swapping going on in the world. I see a lot of it on a daily basis. I do my best to keep my wife and kids safe from any questionable element. About 6 months ago, a lot of things seemed to change. Now as I look back, a lot of it was of my own doing. Jean and I got a call of shots fired in a residential neighborhood. We were the first ones on the scene. I was about to enter the house and Jean was my backup at the door. With gun drawn, I pushed the door open. It was unlocked. I entered the family room and all I heard was quiet and then a moan from a bedroom down the hallway. I slowly made my way down the hall and saw a light on in the far bedroom. I walked in and on the bed laid a woman in a nightgown who had been shot at least 3 times. Twice in her chest and the other in her forehead. On the floor in front of her was a man fully dressed in a suit with blood all over his chest. He had a gun in his hand. I saw him move, and then he seemed to go unconscious. I took a couple of steps and kicked the revolver out of his hand. I was bending over to see if he still had a pulse when I heard a scream. It was Jean. I quickly turned around and saw Jean standing in front of a doorway across the hall. I went to her and looked into the room. There were 2 dead kids lying on the bed. They were both shot once in the head. I about lost it myself. What had happened here? Jean radioed dispatch and asked for backup and an ambulance. I was assigned to the investigation. It really hit close to home. A family destroyed. But why? The man was barely alive, but unconscious. The paramedics rushed him to the hospital. The woman and 2 young children were murdered. The man still had the gun in his hand when I entered the room. Was it a triple murder and an attempted suicide? Was he the father and husband? This really hit me hard. The woman was Lydia's age, and the kids were similar in age to my 2 girls. What would make a man lose it and kill his family? When I got home that night, I greeted my family and hugged them. That night, I made passionate love to Lydia. I told her I was dealing with a murder, and it was bothering me. I might be home late for a week or so till I found out exactly what had happened. She told me she understood. The days became weeks, and the weeks became months. I was out of it. I stopped talking to Lydia and started spending my time at the club where the cops hung out. Looking back, I found out that I had become paranoid and obsessed with this murder or suicide. I was thinking of Lydia and my girls whenever I thought of this murder. In the next 6 months, I put my marriage on hold. I watched as Lydia seemed to change. She stopped talking to me and was always yelling at me for going to the club. The more she yelled at me, the more I went to the club. I could feel our marriage slowly falling apart, but my mind wasn't comprehending what was happening to me. In those few months, Lydia seemed to dress sexier for work. I was watching her more for signs of infidelity. No, she wouldn't do that to me. My mind was making things up. My supervisor sent me to see our psychologist at the station last week, and she said I was talking to the wrong person. I should be talking to Lydia and explaining all this to her. Helen, the doctor, was a good friend to both Lydia and me. She told me I should have a heart-to-heart talk with Lydia, and she was sure Lydia would understand. Monday, I got home from work and Lydia had steak and mashed potatoes on the table. This is when she asked me about going out with her friends on Friday. I wanted to talk to her about my problem, but I could see this probably wasn't the right time. I was scared. I was now wondering if my Lydia was going to have an affair, or if she already had. No, she would never do it, I kept telling myself. Our love for each other was too strong. I remember telling her that I would watch the kids Friday. I thought I was pretty much back to normal, but wasn't really sure. I thought about telling her that she couldn't go, but what would that solve? No, I had to come up with something different. That night I tried to make love to Lydia. She pretty much there as I screwed her. It wasn't the same as I remembered. It was as though she was only doing it because I told her she could go out with her friends. God, I hope I was wrong. Tuesday. Jean was out on a maternity leave, so I didn't have her to talk to. I had a new guy riding with me that I wasn't about to share my problems with. I had to come up with something different. When I got home, I kissed my daughters. They hugged me back and both sat on my lap while we watched one of their kids' programs. Lydia came in the room and said hello, and that dinner was just about ready. I was watching for any signs of change. I especially watched as she talked to me. I could still read faces. While we were eating, I mentioned to Lydia that I had an idea. "What is it, Jerry?" she asked. "Let's do a plan B this weekend. Why don't you forget about going out Friday with your friends, and we can take the girls to the amusement park and maybe even spend the night. We'll go out as a family. For 6 months, you don't even know we're alive. Then, the one time I decide to go out with my friends because you don't want to ever take me anywhere anymore, you get this idea to take me and the girls somewhere. No, you make your reservations and spend some time with your daughters. I'm going out with my friends." She was mad and started crying and went to the bathroom. The girls looked scared and asked if Mommy was all right. I told them she was just upset. Everything was okay. "Daddy, are you still going to take us to the park on Saturday?" asked Kira. "Sure, sweetheart, why not? We can go to the park and ride the rides." "I wish Mommy could come with us," replied Kira. "I know, honey, but Mommy already had plans when Daddy thought about the park. We can't expect her to change her plans at the last minute." I really felt bad for them. I shouldn't have mentioned it in front of them. They were just two little girls who loved their mom and dad. I decided I'd take them anyway. We would just make the best of it. Wednesday. I was worried about my marriage. Because of my actions the last 6 months, I felt that I was pushing Lydia away. Did I chase her away? Did I push her in the arms of another? I needed to do something without just coming out and accusing her. When I go home, Lydia told me she was going shopping to buy a few clothes to wear out on Friday. I wanted to scream out at her that she couldn't go, that we needed to talk. After she left, I took the girls to McDonald's restaurant to get something to eat. Lydia told me she was going shopping with her friend, Sally, and I did ride by Sally's house and saw Lydia's car. I felt bad checking up on her like that. It wasn't something that I was proud of. After eating out with the girls, we went home, and they watched television while I checked a few things around the house. Maybe there were some emails or messages on the answering machine. I even went down to the basement and checked the caller ID on a phone we barely used. I did see a few strange numbers and wrote them down in case I needed them for future reference. None of the calls were received more than twice. After Lydia got home, she had a few bags of stuff. She took them into the bedroom. I asked her what all she bought for her night out, and she kind of just looked at me. "So now all of a sudden you're interested in what I wear?" asked Lydia. "I'm just trying to be a good husband and show interest in what you do and buy. If you don't want to show it to me, then don't," I replied. She went into the bedroom and brought out a cute and sexy black dress. "Here, I bought a dress," she said. "It's pretty. I know you'll look gorgeous in it." It bothered me. It was a mini dress and low cut. I was afraid but not sure what to say. "It kind of bothers me knowing you'll be looking that good," I replied. "I saw other packages. What else did you buy?" She looked at me and went and brought in a couple of more bags. "Here, I bought some pajamas for home," she replied without looking at me. It meant she did plan on taking them. The other bag contained a couple of shorts sets for the girls to wear to the amusement park with me Saturday. The girls smiled and kissed their mother for buying them something. She was that kind of mother, always thinking of the kids. She gathered her packages back up and put them back in the bedroom. She then told the girls it was time to shower and get ready for bed. After putting them to bed, she took a shower herself, and I looked into one of the bags I had seen her bring in but not show me. In it were a sexy pair of black innerwear. They would go great with the dress she bought. Now I had to wonder why she didn't show them to me. Probably afraid I would get mad. When she came out of the shower, I told her I was going over to the club. I needed time to think of a counter plan. When I got home, she was asleep. Thursday. I got up and kissed the girls and even kissed Lydia before going to the station. While on patrol, I had an idea. I stopped by the corner flower shop and bought a bouquet of mixed flowers for Lydia. Her favorite flower was yellow carnations, but I didn't want her to know these were from me. I had the florist sign the card. To a special lady. Can't wait till this weekend. I had it signed, your friend, but no name. Lydia loved fresh flowers. Whenever she went to the store, she always liked to buy a small bouquet and put them on the table. I told the flower shop to deliver them, and if no one was home, to just leave them on the porch. I thought about those flowers all day. I also decided it was time to have my special talk with Lydia tonight. I had to tell her how I felt and why I had been the way I was for so many months. I just hope I hadn't waited too long. When I got home, Lydia had a small smile on her face as she set dinner on the table. I saw the bouquet of flowers on the table and asked her where they came from. She looked me in the eye and then looked away. She hesitated before answering, then replied, I stopped at the store and saw them in the flower department and bought them. Aren't they beautiful? She asked. Yes, very pretty, I said. Now I was worried. She never mentioned the card and lied to me about where she got the flowers. I was truly hurting inside right now. I told Lydia that I needed to talk to her after we put the girls to bed tonight. It was very important that we talk. She looked very puzzled at me, but agreed to listen to what I had to say. I needed to tell her why I was the way I was, why I had been acting strangely, hoping that she would understand. I felt I was losing her, and God knows what would happen after going out with her friend on Friday. Lydia, I have to tell you what has been going on in my life. I've been holding it in too long. I talked to Helen, and she told me. Lydia interrupted me. Helen? Is she the one you're having an affair with? I always thought she was our friend. I can't hardly believe. Now I interrupted Lydia. Affair? Helen and I didn't have an affair. Where did you ever get that idea? I asked. You've been so distant for these last few months. I figured you were having an affair. I just didn't know who with, replied Lydia. Stop it. I haven't been having an affair. I had a problem coping with the after effects of one of my cases. I was sent to talk to Helen since she is our station psychologist. She told me that I was talking to the wrong person, that I should be talking to you. And that's what I'm trying to do. If you would please stop interrupting me with these affair accusations. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'll try to listen to what you have to say. I hope it's just not a ploy so I don't go out with my friends tomorrow. I began my story about the murder and attempted suicide. About 6 months ago, I came across a murder and attempted suicide. A very successful businessman, about my age, shot his 2 kids in the head and then fired multiple times into his wife. He then shot himself in the chest trying to commit suicide. A lot of this stuff I found out during the investigation. I couldn't understand why a man would kill his family and then try taking his own life. It tore me up inside when I came upon this scene. It was hard on Jean also. We don't get too many cases like this one. When I found the man alive, I wanted to shoot him myself. Those poor little kids never knew what hit them. I guess that is good in a sense, but they never had a chance to live their dreams. I kept thinking of Kira and Brittany. It was such a horrible sight to see. When I came home that night, I made love to you and hugged the girls. It was something I'll never forget. I just couldn't understand at the time why a man would do that. When I talked to some of his neighbors and coworkers, they all said they had the perfect marriage. They were always happy and hardly ever argued. Again, it was a lot like our marriage. It was 2 days later when I finally had a chance to talk to the husband. I called them John and Jane Doe during the investigation. The shot to his chest was self-inflicted like we thought. He missed his heart by a few millimeters. The first thing he said to me, he asked me to kill him. He didn't want to live. He said to unplug his life support. He told me that he had always thought they had a great marriage. He never in his life dreamed that his wife would have an affair behind his back. He thought they had the perfect marriage. They were married for 10 years, just about the same as us. I remember him saying he thought his life was perfect, the perfect wife and great kids. There were no financial worries, and there was a lot of love in the family. He was away on business and wasn't supposed to be home for 2 more days. He got his business finished early and caught a red-eye flight home to surprise the family. When he got home, there was a strange car in the driveway, so he parked in the front of the house. He could see the only light on in the house was in his bedroom. He quietly got out of his car and unlocked the front door and walked in. He could hear moans coming from the bedroom. He slowly walked by his kids' room. Their doors were closed, and walked toward his bedroom. He peeked in and saw his wife on the bed and a man screwing her. He stood there a moment frozen in his tracks as he watched his wife having sex with this man. He told me that he had no idea what to do. It was something he never thought he would ever have to respond to. "They never even noticed me," he said. He backed out of the hallway. His mind was complete mush as he went out the door and got into his car and drove to his office. When he arrived at the office, he opened his safe and took out his revolver and a few extra bullets, then drove back to his house. He had no idea how long the round trip took, but when he got to his house, his wife was kissing the man. His wife went back into the house and the man drove away. John followed him about 40 miles into the next town. He followed him into a parking garage, and when the man got out, John shot him 4 times in his pelvic region. The victim fell back into his car, and John drove home. Before he entered his house, he made sure he reloaded his gun. He told me he had no idea what he was thinking as he entered his house the second time. Everyone was sleeping. He opened the door to his kids' room and shot them both one time in the middle of the forehead. When I asked him why he shot his 2 innocent children, he stated, "I didn't want them to grow up with everyone knowing their mother was a bitch and their father a killer. What kind of life would that have been?" For some reason, he thought killing them was better for them. His wife heard the shots and was in her bedroom doorway when he came toward her. She cried out, "No, John, no." He fired a shot into each of her breasts, and as she fell on the bed, he fired a 3rd shot into her head. Turning the gun on himself, he aimed it at his heart, but as I mentioned, it barely missed his heart. He tried to fire a 2nd shot to his head, but the gun misfired because it was out of bullets. He fell to the floor, and that's when we arrived. One of the neighbors had heard gunshots and called 911. We didn't know that the 2 shootings were related. I went over to the other precinct, and we compared notes. Clyde Fowler was the other victim's name. He was a salesman for the company Jane Doe worked for. He was married with 3 children and lived in Baltimore. No one knows if this was the first time the 2 of them were together. Every time I thought of that family in the last 6 months, I thought about us. "Jerry, surely you don't think that I would do such a thing. How could you?" asked Lydia. She had tears in her eyes. "It's not only about you. It's more about me. What would I do if that happened to me? I carry a gun for a living. Could I just crack or lose my mind like John and go on a shooting spree? Is it possible I could shoot the 3 most important people in my life? It scares me terribly. Lately I've been watching you, and you seem to have changed. We don't talk anymore. I know you have lied to me lately, or at least not told me the total truth. I can't ever remember you ever lying to me before. In the last few months, you have been dressing sexier. Now I'm worried about losing you and how I will react. I think I love you too much. It's a fine line between love and obsession. I just wanted you to know what I've been thinking the last few months. I want you to know that I love you with all my heart and soul. Always have." I looked up and Lydia was crying. She didn't say a word and ran into the bathroom. I didn't know why she was crying. I had just spilt my heart out to her and she's crying. Did she do something wrong? Did I say something I shouldn't have? I was a nervous wreck. I decided to go to the club and leave Lydia to herself. Maybe she had some thinking to do. I know I had done my best and was honest with her. I just hope she felt the same. When I got back from the club, the house was dark and Lydia was sleeping, or at least it looked that way. I decided to sleep on the couch. I didn't want any more confrontations that night. Friday. I woke up early Friday morning and got dressed quickly. I kissed the girls goodbye and told Lydia through the bathroom door that I would be home at 6 o'clock to take care of the girls while she went out with her friends. I didn't wait for a reply. I just got in my car and left. It wasn't the greatest day for me. I guess I took it out on the people I stopped. No warning, no Mr. Nice Cop. I gave out tickets left and right. I was glad when my shift was over. I was done till Monday. I headed home to God knows what. I wasn't sure what to expect. I pictured my wife being all dressed up in that sexy black dress for someone else. It kind of pissed me off while I thought about it. I opened the front door and could smell dinner on the table. Lydia greeted me at the door in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. She reached up and pulled my head down to her, and she kissed me. "Welcome home, honey," she said. "What's going on? Shouldn't you be getting ready to go out with your friends?" I asked. Kira and Brittany came running in and hugged me. "Daddy, Mommy's going to go to the amusement park with us tomorrow. She said she would rather be with us than her old friends, replied Kira. Is this true, Lydia? What changed your mind? I asked. I gave it a lot of thought last night and today, and I thought your plan B would be a lot more fun. I'll tell you my side of the story later. Right now dinner is getting cold, and you don't like cold steak. My favorite dinner twice in 1 week? There really is a God. I laughed. We all went in and ate dinner. The girls told me what they did at school that day, and then Lydia told me about her day. When they asked me about my day, I told them that a lot of people got tickets for speeding. Lydia smiled at me and said, "Well, you can't marry any of them because you're already married." We laughed and the girls just looked at us kind of odd. After dinner, the girls went and got their suitcases and started packing them for our trip to the park. Lydia laughed, as they wanted to take all their toys. No, girls, you can only take one toy to play with in the car while we travel. You need a change of clothes and your night clothes. Don't forget your swimsuits if you want to go in the pool at the motel. We can go swimming in the pool, asked Brittany. I looked over at two happy little girls. We'll ride rides and swim in the pool and eat at any restaurant you want. It's our family weekend, I replied. The girls were jumping and screaming when Lydia finally got them calmed down and tucked in for the night. I was sitting on the couch waiting for Lydia to talk to me. She came in and sat down on the chair next to me. Lydia speaks. I'm sorry for crying yesterday. I was crying for so many reasons. Jerry, I love you. I thought that you had a girlfriend and I didn't know how to deal with it. I remember you making love to me about 6 months ago and telling me about a murder or suicide. I didn't know any of the particulars because you stopped talking to me. I waited about a week, but you stopped talking to me altogether. I guess it must have been after you talked to the husband. I was mad yesterday when you said you pictured me cheating on you. I thought you trusted me more than that. Then I began to think of what you were going through. You shouldn't have gone through that alone. You should have come and talked to me, and we could have worked it out. I thought you were cheating and you thought I was cheating. All because we stopped talking to each other. About the sexy clothes you said I was wearing. I was worried that you were falling out of love with me, and maybe you thought I gained too much weight. I started exercising and lost 15 pounds, and bought some new clothes hoping you would notice, but you never did. At least I thought you never did. The only sex we had was when I initiated it, and then you didn't make love. You just hurried to get off. Last Monday, I think you did it for some sort of revenge, because I wanted to go out. It hurt my pride. I don't like that side of you. I stopped talking to you because every time I said something you yelled at me. I can't tell you how much that hurt me. You never raised your voice to me before. Now I was afraid to ask you anything. Then you started stopping at the club most every night. I knew something was wrong but didn't know how to fix it. You wouldn't talk to me. You bought me the flowers, didn't you? Why didn't you tell me? I was scared to death when I received them. You know I like yellow carnations, so I knew you did it for spite. Why did you do it? I wanted to see if you had a boyfriend or lover. I was hoping you would tell me about it when I got home. Instead, you lied and said you bought them yourself, I responded. The same thing goes for when I asked you who all was going out, and you lied to me then too. Why did you lie to me? I didn't want to lie, but I was scared. I didn't know how you would have responded. Remember, you haven't talked to me either. So we're talking now. Tell me about it. Do you have a boyfriend? I asked. My God, no. You're my love, my only love. I did want to tell you about a guy that was hitting on me, but was half afraid to since you've been so distant. You know how we kid around with our friends and tell off color jokes and all. There's a new guy, Matt, who recently joined our staff. I don't know anything about him, but when he started to come on to me, I told him to forget it, that I was a happily married woman. He lay back for a while and I thought everything was okay. When Sally asked me to go out with the group last Monday, I figured why not? You said no to me and we haven't gone out in months, so I told her yes. Later that day, she told me Matt was going because I was going. It bothered me because I didn't want anything to do with him. Sally told me there were a whole lot of people going, I guess around 8 of us. Only 2 were men, Matt, and Bill, who was going to take his wife. So I figured I was safe with the numbers. I wanted to ask you to go, but you said no the last 3 times I asked you, and I ended up not going either. I didn't tell you his name because I was afraid you would get mad at me and freak out. On Thursday when I got the flowers, I thought they were from Matt. I wasn't sure what to do. I've never received flowers from anyone but you. When you came home and asked me where they came from, I freaked out. If they weren't from you, then Matt must have sent them. I was too afraid to tell you, so I lied to you. I'm so sorry. I felt so bad lying to you, but I wasn't sure what to do. This morning I went up to Matt and yelled at him. I told him that I was happily married and loved my husband and to stop sending me flowers or anything else. He looked at me and said that he never sent me flowers. That's when I realized it was you. I felt kind of stupid, but I told Matt to make sure he never did, or I'd send my husband to have a talk with him. Jerry, I love you with all my heart. There is no one else. There never has been and never will be. I need for you to know that, said Lydia. I know. I love you too, and only you, I replied. No, Jerry, you don't understand. These aren't just words. Look me in the eyes. I know you can read my face, so stare at me and listen. Jerry, I love you and only you. Do you see the truth in my face? I knew she was telling me the truth. I could see it in her face. I leaned forward and kissed her passionately. I see the truth and I honestly believe you, I replied. We got up and went to bed. She slipped on her new baby doll pajamas that she had bought. I just stripped except for my boxers. I got us each a glass of soda and we watched a little TV while lying on the bed. I thought we were going to do that in the motel tomorrow? I asked. There is plenty more love where this came from, she replied. When we were done, she rolled off of me and we turned off the TV and cuddled. It was something we hadn't done in a long time. Our love life was back to normal. The rest of our weekend went great. We enjoyed our time with the girls, and at night we let the girls have the big bed. Then we closed the bedroom door and slept on the sofa bed. We didn't get much sleep, but it was well worth it. We made love like we used to. The following Monday on my way to work, I bought a dozen yellow carnations and had them sent to the house. I signed the card, "To the woman I love. Thank you for the wonderful weekend." Of course, I didn't sign it again. When I got home, they were on the table, and standing next to them was my beautiful, smiling wife. She handed me the card and asked, "Were these from you? If not, you better find out who sent them." She smiled and kissed me. I asked her how school went that day, and she kind of laughed. She told me that her friends went out, and this Matt guy went with them. He had asked Sally where she was. Sally's reply to him was, "Matt, stay away from Lydia if you know what's good for you. She's happily married to a psycho cop who's about 6 feet 5 inches and weighs about 250 pounds, and will literally wipe you out if Lydia tells him about how you've been making a play for her." So, what did he say to you today? I asked. Other than saying hi, he stayed away from me. I think he believes I have leprosy, laughed Lydia. Jerry, let's make another baby. I want to mate with you and give you a son. I was happy and smiled at her. Honey, if it's what you want, we'll practice day and night. If we have another girl instead, all I hope for is that she is healthy and looks like you and the girls. I have the most beautiful and nicest family of anyone I know. Our lives were back to normal. We had dinner together most every night. Our girls told us about their day, and Lydia and I discussed our days also. No more secrets between us. About 2 weeks went by and Lydia told me her group of friends were going out again and she wanted to go. I looked up in almost despair until she said, "I'll only go if you will go with me. I want to wear that little black number I bought last time. Can we go?" I thought for a minute and looked her in the eyes. "Only if you wear the black innerwear that you bought to go with them," I smiled. "You knew? I think you read minds as well as faces. I wanted to surprise you, but I should have known I can't keep anything from you. Mom said she would watch the girls, but I had to promise them that we would take them somewhere next week. So we go clubbing this week and to the zoo with the girls next week. Have I told you lately how much I love you, Jerry Walker?" "Just about every day, which is the way I like it," I grinned. We went out with her friends and had a great time. This Matt guy was a no-show. It was probably a good move on his part. After our night of partying, Lydia and I went to our room and made love. We could make all the loud noises that we couldn't at home. "Let's make that baby, honey. I'm off the pill," smiled Lydia. I could see by the look on her face she was truly serious. We made love every possible way. 3 months later, Lydia asked me to go shopping with her. She was gaining weight and wanted to buy a couple of outfits. The girls were standing there and asked her how come she was gaining weight. "Well, I have a surprise for you. You girls are going to have a baby brother in about 6 months." She looked up at me with tears of joy in her eyes, and I knew she was telling the truth. We never lied or kept anything from each other again. We shared our daily stories, and I made sure I dealt with any unwanted advances. We both knew that the answer to most marital problems was lack of communication. We weren't going to let it ever happen again. For those who wondered what happened to John, the man who killed his family, he healed and then went to court and was found guilty on 4 counts of premeditated murder. He is on death row awaiting his date with destiny. He turned down all appeals. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.